While Trump fights Iran, she is watching. And the clock is ticking. Right now, as American warships patrol the Persian Gulf and U.S. fighter jets fly missions over Iranian territory, a man sits in Beijing studying every single move. He is not watching out of curiosity. He is watching out of calculation. Because for Xi Jinping, the president of the People's Republic of China, the war in the Middle East is not just a foreign conflict. It is an opportunity, perhaps the biggest opportunity of his political life. And in this video, we are going to explain exactly why. We are going to show you how a war that started in the Persian Gulf could trigger a second crisis, this time in the Pacific. A crisis that would not just affect Taiwan and China and the United States. A crisis that would affect every phone in your pocket, every laptop on your desk, every car in your driveway, and every economy on this planet. This is Geo Polity, and this is the story the world is not paying enough attention to. Welcome back to Geo Polity, the channel where global politics meets your daily reality. We break down the world's most consequential events in plain language with no agenda and no noise. Just evidence, context, and clear analysis. If you are new here, subscribe now, because this story is moving fast, and you will want to be here for every update. Let us start with a number, the year 2027. That is Xi Jinping's deadline. Not a date chosen randomly, not a figure pulled from thin air. It is the year by which China's military, the People's Liberation Army, has been officially ordered to be fully ready for a military operation to take Taiwan. We know this because senior U.S. military commanders have stated it publicly. Admiral Philip Davidson, former commander of U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, told Congress that China could move on Taiwan within this decade and specifically flagged 2027 as the critical window. His successor has repeated the same warning. Xi himself has never publicly named a date, but his actions speak clearly. China's military budget has grown every single year for the past 30 years without interruption. The People's Liberation Army Navy is now the largest navy in the world by number of ships. China has conducted more military exercises around Taiwan in the past 3 years than in the previous 2 decades combined. The clock is not a metaphor. It is a military planning schedule. And it is ticking. But here is what makes March 2026 different from every previous moment in this long-running story. America is distracted. For the first time in years, the United States military is genuinely stretched. The Iran conflict has pulled significant naval assets into the Persian Gulf. The Fifth Fleet is operating at high tempo. American munition stockpiles, already drawn down by years of supporting Ukraine, are under further pressure. The Pentagon is managing 2 major theaters of tension simultaneously, and the political bandwidth of the Trump administration is consumed almost entirely by the Middle East. This is not speculation. This is the assessment of America's own strategic analysts. The United States has always built its military doctrine around the ability to fight and win in 2 major theaters at once. That doctrine is now being stress-tested in real time, and the results are making people in Washington very nervous. Xi Jinping is reading the same reports. His intelligence services are watching the same movements. And the question that is being asked in every serious foreign policy circle on Earth right now is simply this: is this China's window? To understand why that question is so urgent, we need to understand what Taiwan actually is. Not just geographically, not just politically, but economically. Taiwan is a democratic island of 23 million people sitting just 180 kilometers off the coast of mainland China. China claims it as a province. Taiwan governs itself as a de facto independent state. The United States does not formally recognize Taiwan as independent, but it sells Taiwan weapons, maintains unofficial diplomatic relations, and has repeatedly signaled that it would defend Taiwan against a Chinese attack. That is the political picture. Most people know it already. What most people do not fully grasp is the economic picture. Taiwan is home to TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. And TSMC is, without any exaggeration, the most important factory on Earth. TSMC manufactures approximately 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductor chips, the chips that power your smartphone. The chips inside your laptop. The chips that run the computers in modern cars, in hospital equipment, in military systems, in financial networks, in everything. There is no substitute for TSMC. Not in the short term. Not in the medium term. The United States has spent billions trying to build domestic chip manufacturing capacity. So has Europe. So has Japan. All of those efforts are years away from maturity. If Taiwan fell under Chinese control tomorrow, or if a military conflict simply disrupted TSMC's operations, the global technology economy would begin to seize up within months. Not years. Months. This is not a technology story. This is a civilizational infrastructure story. And it sits on an island that China has never stopped claiming as its own. Now let us talk about China's domestic situation. Because this is the part of the story that most Western media is not connecting clearly enough, and it is perhaps the most important piece of the entire puzzle. China's economy is in serious trouble. On the 5th of March 2026, just 12 days ago, the Chinese government announced its official GDP growth target for this year. The number was between 4.5% and 5%. That sounds reasonable until you understand the context. It is China's lowest growth ambition since 1991. It represents a country that has seen its economic miracle slow to a grind. But the official number almost certainly overstates reality. Independent economists who study Chinese data closely estimate that real growth is closer to 2 to 3%. Some put it lower. Youth unemployment in China has exceeded 20%. That is 1 in 5 young Chinese people without a job. The situation became so politically sensitive that Beijing simply stopped publishing the youth unemployment data for several months. When a government stops publishing statistics, it is because the statistics are too damaging to publish. China's property sector, which at its peak represented roughly 30% of the entire Chinese economy, is in freefall. The Evergrande collapse was not an isolated event. It was the most visible symptom of a systemic crisis that has wiped out the savings of millions of Chinese families and left hundreds of thousands of unfinished apartments standing empty across the country. Consumer confidence in China is at historic lows. Deflation, the opposite of inflation, and in many ways more dangerous, has taken hold. When prices fall, consumers wait to spend. When consumers wait to spend, businesses contract. When businesses contract, unemployment rises. It is a spiral that is very difficult to break. Now here is the critical question that historians and political scientists have been asking for decades. What do authoritarian leaders do when their domestic legitimacy is under threat? The answer, with uncomfortable frequency, is this: they look outward. They manufacture or accelerate a foreign crisis. They wrap themselves in nationalism. They give their population an external enemy to focus on rather than internal failures to question. We are not saying Xi Jinping will definitely do this. We are saying the conditions that historically precede such decisions are present in China right now to a degree that demands serious attention. A struggling economy, a restless population, a military that has been built and trained and equipped for exactly one mission, and a geopolitical moment when the world's only superpower is looking in a different direction. Let us now look at the military picture. Because the balance of power in the Taiwan Strait has shifted significantly in the past decade, and not entirely in America's favor. China has spent 30 years systematically building a military designed for one specific purpose: to deter or defeat American intervention in a Taiwan scenario. Its missile arsenal can reach every American base in the Western Pacific. Its anti-ship missiles, the DF-21D and DF-26, known in Pentagon circles as carrier killers, are specifically designed to destroy the aircraft carriers that form the backbone of American power projection in the region. China has also invested heavily in its submarine fleet, its cyber warfare capabilities, and its ability to conduct what military strategists call anti-access and area denial operations, essentially, the ability to make a large area of ocean too dangerous for American ships to operate in. None of this means America would lose a conflict over Taiwan. The United States military remains the most powerful fighting force ever assembled, and it has alliances with Japan, South Korea, Australia, and the Philippines that would all be activated in a Taiwan scenario. But it does mean that such a conflict would be far more costly, far more uncertain, and far longer than any conflict America has fought since the Second World War. And that uncertainty, that cost, is itself a deterrent to American intervention. Xi knows this. His generals have gamed it thousands of times. Taiwan is not standing still either. The island has significantly increased its own defense budget, up 16% this year alone. It has extended mandatory military service. It is purchasing more advanced weapons from the United States, including anti-ship missiles and air defense systems. And crucially, it has been studying the lessons of Ukraine, how a smaller, determined defender with the right weapons and the right will can inflict devastating costs on a larger invader. So, what are the scenarios? What actually happens next? The most alarming scenario is a direct military invasion, an amphibious assault across the Taiwan Strait. This is the scenario that dominates war games and think tank reports. It would be the largest seaborne military operation since the Normandy landings in 1944. It would involve tens of thousands of ships, troops, and aircraft. And it would almost certainly trigger direct military confrontation between China and the United States. The less dramatic but arguably more likely near-term scenario is a blockade. China surrounds Taiwan with naval and air assets, cuts off its imports and exports, and attempts to strangle the island into submission without firing a single shot directly at Taiwanese territory. This approach tests American resolve without triggering the same automatic military response that a direct invasion would. A third scenario is a targeted strike on specific military or infrastructure targets, a demonstration of force designed to show Taiwan and the world that China has the capability and the will to act, without committing to full-scale war. Each of these scenarios carries risks that China's leadership understands. A miscalculation in any of them could spiral into a conflict that destroys the very economy China is trying to protect. And that is ultimately why most serious analysts still believe she will not move in 2026. The risks remain too high. The economic damage to China from even a victorious conflict would be catastrophic. Western sanctions following a Taiwan invasion would dwarf anything imposed on Russia after Ukraine. But most serious analysts also said China would not be where it is today, with the world's largest navy, the world's most powerful land-based missile arsenal, and a 2027 military readiness deadline 20 years ago. Xi Jinping is a man who plays a long game. He has consolidated more personal power than any Chinese leader since Mao Zedong. He has removed term limits on his presidency. He has purged rivals, restructured the military, and staked his historical legacy on the reunification of Taiwan with mainland China. This is not a man who will simply let the deadline pass. So, what does this mean for you, wherever you are watching from? If you are in the United States, it means your government is navigating the most complex set of simultaneous military and geopolitical challenges since the Cold War. It means defense budgets will rise. It means difficult choices about where American military power is deployed and what commitments can actually be kept. If you are in the United Kingdom or Europe, it means that the comfortable assumption of American security guarantees in Asia and elsewhere needs to be seriously re-examined. Europe has spent 30 years reducing its defense capacity. The world it was built for no longer exists. If you are anywhere in the world that uses a smartphone, a computer, a modern car, or any technology manufactured in the past decade, and that is all of us, it means that the island of Taiwan is not a distant geopolitical abstraction. It is the factory that makes the modern world run. And it is sitting at the center of the most dangerous territorial dispute on Earth. The story of oil and Iran that we told you last week is urgent. It is hitting your wallet right now. But the story of China and Taiwan is bigger, slower, and in the long run, potentially far more consequential for the shape of the world your children will inherit. We are watching it so you do not have to watch it alone. If this analysis added something to your understanding of the world, please like this video. It is the single most important thing you can do to help this channel reach more people who deserve this kind of reporting. Subscribe to Geo Polity if you are not already. We publish new geopolitical analysis every week, and in a world moving this fast, that matters. Share this video with someone who thinks Taiwan is just a tech story, or just an Asian problem, or just something that will not affect them. Show them this video, because the evidence says otherwise. And leave a comment below. Tell us, do you think China will move on Taiwan while America is distracted in Iran? Do you think the West is paying enough attention? We read every single comment. Your perspective shapes what we cover next. This is Geopolity. Stay informed, stay analytical, and we will see you in the next one.